Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? Is all right. This is the final video of tonight when Newcastle have been put out of the FA Cup, and we are now 7 games without any win. Yeah, 7 games now. Bit concerning. And you can say we've played some big teams, blah, blah, blah. We've had a lot of games. We've had COVID. But at the end of the day, it is now 7 games without a win. And Tuesday's game comes very, very quick against a side which hasn't won at all in the league and only picked up their first win today in the FA Cup in Sheffield United. So this is the last word. We're going to have a look at lineups in a second, talk about the first half, second half, extra time, a couple of incidents. We'll also hear from Brandon as well on basically going out the FA Cup and his feelings. We've also got a audio clip from Steve Bruce as well. And of course, we'll read out your comments later on towards the end of the video. But yeah, let's crack on with it. Let's take a look at the Arsenal side. First of all, obviously they made a slight change in bringing Nelson in because Martinelli looked like he's got a serious injury when it was in the warm-up. But if you look at that Arsenal side, you really think almost all of that side, bar Saka and Lacazette, who are on the bench, would start in most games. So it's a very, very strong side. Obviously, Arteta won this competition last year. He's taking the FA Cup seriously because that's the domestic trophy that they're going to go for, potentially the Europa League as well, that they might have a look at. I think they're still in the Europa League. I'm sure they are. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember. But that was the Arsenal lineup. And we've talked about it in the preview, and do Arsenal fear teams now? I don't necessarily feel that Arsenal have that fear factor anymore. You look at teams in the Premier League, you look at Manchester City, you look at Liverpool, Chelsea to some extent, Man United attacking forward line. That screams out, whereas Arsenal players unfortunately don't. Yes, I know they defeated us 2-0, but they should have beaten us. We're a side that hasn't won any games for six games. We're very defensive, and we've got an average championship manager. So Arsenal should have won tonight. It took a long time for them to get the act in again, extra time, which we'll talk about. But let's have a look at Newcastle's lineup, of course. And we all knew that Martin Dubravka was going to come back into net, so we know that was fantastic to see him. And he actually performed really good for a couple of brilliant saves, 2 or 3. Emile Kraft come back in. Jamal Lascelles only played 45 minutes because he was fatigued. The question has to be asked there, well, why are you playing him if he's fatigued? But maybe it's just to get some minutes in before crunch game on Tuesday. Kieran Clark, we'll talk about him in a second with his error. Paul Dummett and Isaac Hayden it was a back 5. So admin at Newcastle got that wrong because he's got it as a back 4 where it was a back 5. Sean continues. Jeff Hendrick, Matty was back onto the bench having a breather. Miguel Miron was over on the right-hand side, which again, I don't like at all. Lad is wasted, and his form is deteriorated this season, as well as Joe Linton's for the last 18 months. He was on the left. Andy Carroll was probably Newcastle's best player. We'll talk more about him. He's starting up front. But Dwight Gale, how many minutes does Dwight Gale get a day? 2? 3? What's he got a day to start, man? Dwight Gale's not the 4th or 5th best striker at the club. He's the 2nd best. And this was a perfect opportunity to play Carroll and Gale up top for me. Little and large. Carroll had no runners beside him. But Elliot Anderson was great to see him on the bench. Of course it was, which we'll talk again about him in a moment as well. But please keep your comments coming as well. But we're going to the game. We're starting off all right. It was bright. The first real chance was Aubameyang was through on the right-hand side, and he forced Dubravka into the save. For a second, I thought the rebound was going to be put in, but Newcastle did defend it. So it was very... The first 5 to 10 minutes, I say, was started bright. I say that loosely by Newcastle standards, but it was very defensive, and it was, as the game went on in the last probably half an hour of the first half, it was park the bus already. It was like, come on, man, get out, attack, man. It was very defensive, and you know, Andy Carroll was the man who was our best defender, which is stupid saying that. It really is, but Andy Carroll was our last line to clearing it, and I know he had a bit of a scary moment where he tried to clear her. This is actually the picture which you can see on your screen. But that tells you a thousand words, doesn't it? your centre forward's your best player and he's your best defender, and he was putting himself about, which I do like. That's what Andy Carroll is all about. It was very in the mould of Andy Carroll in the olden days. And that's not being disrespectful, because I think he's not the ability. He peaked very early in his career, and it was a performance like when he was really young, where he was muscling, picked up a yellow card, which I thought was a bit harsh. But in that first half, that was in fact, it was only the shining light was Andy Carroll's first half performance. And, you know, he did miss a couple of sitters, and we kicked off in the second half, and the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we started out the better team in the second half, and it was like, this is more like it. However, then Bruce must have kicked the arses in the dressing room half time. I thought, yeah, this is more like how we're doing. Let's start, get some crosses in, let's start 1-2s and movement, pace. It was better. It was from Newcastle standards, because we're not used to playing attacking football, let's face it. It was better. Carroll was then getting some chances, of course. You seen a header that went just wide. It was tame, but the obviously the big one, which we'll talk about in a minute, which was the death, which could have won it for Newcastle. But I like the fact, as I say, that he was putting himself about. Obviously, you scored against Leicester. A good performance today. Can he play against Sheffield United? Can he do 2 games in 3-4 days? I know he was brilliant last year at Sheffield United. If you remember when we won 2-0 and he was the foil that night, and saint-maximin header and that John Joe Shelby VAR goal, but that was Andy Carroll's best performance last season. But Dubravka was again forced into a couple of saves. The fingertip from the header, which came in from Willock, I think it was, and he palms it wide. Great save, one for the cameras, isn't it? And obviously I remember a dipping shot as well, which he palmed over. I think it was a little bit earlier on in the game. But yeah, Dubravka was one of the better players tonight. A lot of the defenders took a lot of credit tonight. It's just a shame how the goal came about, which we'll talk about again in a second. And please do keep your comments coming. I can see them coming in. I will read them out very shortly. But this is the moment I want to talk about, is because any of us who subscribe to NFTV Extra, which is my second channel, I talk about the under-23s once a month when I do an update. And Elliot Anderson, I've talked about quite a bit on that channel. Know what he's about. You can play anywhere across the front 3 in midfield. Wonderful touch, class dribbling, good feet. Eye for goal, scores goals. Scotland Youth International, but obviously was born and raised in around the coast, North Shields area. I think he lives in Whitley Bay now. I might be wrong on that. But yeah, it was a moment that all Geordies love to see. We've seen it with Kel Watts at the end of last season when he made his debut against Liverpool, seeing local lads come through. Fantastic moment from him. Showed signs that he didn't look out of place. Got back, helped out, got forward. I think the nerves would have kicked in massively. Don't get me wrong, he's a confident lad, but it was brilliant to see that, and we want to see more of Elliot Anderson. We've seen it with Matty, who he broke through last year. I would have liked to see him start, in all honesty, because I just don't feel that the FA Cup, unfortunately, is, even if we won this game, is a realistic target for Newcastle this season. It's staying up because we've got Steve Bruce, but I can't sing his praises enough. I talk about him on NFTV Extra loads with the under-23s. Every time we do recaps with the games and performances, he's standing out. Stan Flaherty's another one. If you don't know that much about the under-23s, a winger who likes to cut in with his left foot is another talent as well. So keep an eye out for those two in particular going forward. And he made his debut, which was great. And then it all kind of kicked off, would you call it that? In the dying seconds at full time. We'll talk about Emile Smith Rowe, who's a fantastic talent himself. Was it a red card? Was it not a red card? And initially, when I seen it, I thought, oof, that was fast. But obviously, we've got the benefit watching back at home at TV. I don't actually feel it's a red card. Some people are split on this decision. Let me know in the comments. I personally don't. I don't think there's any malice in it. I think he's pulling out with a challenge. Sean Longstaff does yelp, don't get me wrong, but it was an incident and it all happened very, very quick because Andy Carroll could have literally nicked the game. He should have scored, to be honest, Andy Carroll. That's the gilt-edged one. But it all happened in the space of about 90 seconds. And Leno does fantastic well to smother it back away from Carroll because they could have banded back out to another Newcastle player. But that was a mad 90 seconds. But personally, I don't feel it is a red card. I think it would have been incredibly harsh if it was on the other foot. No pun intended. So we went into extra time. and the intensity from the second half by Newcastle was much better. Could we then take that into extra time? And it didn't. It dropped, and it dropped quite a bit. Whether that's down to fitness levels, I don't know. Bruce made all the 5 substitutions. Gale should have been brought on a lot earlier. That's only what I'm not really unhappy about. But Arsenal were then dominating, and they were creating chances, and we're hitting them from distance as well. And the goal eventually came, and then you've got to unfortunately point the finger at one of our most reliable defenders, which is Kieran Clark, who's blatantly at fault, miscontrols it. It's a fantastic through ball. Smith Rowe gets on his right foot. Brilliant finish. You have to say that. It is a fantastic finish to beat Dubravka. But Kieran Clark is very, very reliable. It's once in the blue moon. This is only, his second or third mistake in his whole Newcastle career from over 100 games, which is pretty impressive. If you look at his fellow centre-backs, Jamal Lascelles has at least 3 or 4 a season. Fabian Schär is very indifferent. Lejeune doesn't even play for us currently in the minute. Paul Dummett's always injured. So for Kieran Clark, his standards dropped tonight because of the error, but I'm not putting all the blame on Kieran Clark because next time out, you'll go out and perform really, really well for us. So yeah, it's one in the blue moon for me with that. But I think that, can you respond in Newcastle? Can you go back and hit Arsenal with an equaliser? And it didn't materialise. There wasn't enough end product for me. And Aubameyang, who we were talking in the previous show, he's only scored 3 Premier League goals all season. He wrapped it up with a tap in, and it was game over, wasn't it? It was 2-0, and Newcastle headed out of the FA Cup. And in all honesty, I am disappointed that we have got beat, but I'm more happier with the performance that the lads put in, because if you keep performing well, eventually they will match up with results and points. So if Newcastle do put a lot more fight in against a better side, let's face it, Arsenal, yes, I know they're having a very indifferent season and they're mid-table side at the minute, but they've got a lot more quality in the first 11 than what we've got. I don't think their squad is very good, but I think their first 11, if all fully fit, is way better than ours. So I'm happier that the performance was there, but the next one out is Sheffield United is massive because we have to go and... Sheffield United, sorry, if I call them Wednesday, they'll gan off it. Sheffield United picked up their first win all season today in the FA Cup against the lower league side in Bristol Rovers, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. So they'll be bouncing, even though they've won against the Leicester side, they'll be bouncing that. We've won the first game. Can we go and beat Newcastle on Tuesday? We cannot let that happen. We can't, because it'll suck us in further. And then Fulham have already got a game in hand on where if we get beaten, Fulham win, and they've still got that game in hand, it's you've got to look over your shoulder a little bit like that and think you've got to just be careful on Tuesday. I think more importantly, you cannot lose it, but the confidence level, if we can win, because we've got the difficult games out of the way, it'll be huge confidence boost. If we get beat off Sheffield United, who haven't picked up any win at all season, and that'll be 8 games unbeaten. You've been beaten against a side that hasn't won any games. It's screaming out to the board. If the board are that thick, they'll keep Bruce in charge. But I think it's not panic stations for them yet. It hasn't sunk in for them yet. Whereas us as fans, we've had enough of it now. We don't want any more of it. But granted, the performance was better today. But we have to go again on Tuesday. We have to go and put another performance in. We have to get 3 points. We have to play with a bit of swagger, a bit of confidence, a bit of style. But we know as fans, Steve Bruce does not play that way. And it's very, very difficult to watch. We'll have a look at your comments as well, what you're saying. And then we do have a clip from Bruce and Brandon as well before we wrap up as well. Ollie says that he really liked Clark, but he did cost us the first goal as well. I totally agree with you on that. When we just talked about Kieran Clark, like I say, he's a fantastic servant of the club. I'm just going to change the banners around actually because I'm not a big fan of that one. But there we go. So that was your first comment. Thank you very much, Ollie. Those are chances Carroll has. He needs to finish them as simple as that. We could have had the game won in 90 minutes. But having said that as well, Connor, I think Carroll had his best game for a long, long time tonight. And if that was Dwight Gale, possibly. Wilson obviously didn't play, which I haven't really talked about. I think he's rested. Shelby didn't play. Fernandez didn't play. I think all those three have a big... Matty obviously didn't come off the bench. 3 or 4 of them have got a big, big chance of starting on Tuesday. Yeah, Ginger Hoscombe, 7 games now. Yeah, just deflated with that. Tough decision. Darlow, Dubravka. Darlow, for me, goes back and goal on Tuesday because he doesn't deserve to lose his place. Yes, Dubravka had a good game tonight, but Dubravka's, it's his shirt to lose. Carroll played in 4 or 5 positions today, number 9, a 10, a winger, midfielder, defender. Our midfield was largely anomalous. Joe Litton, no comment, just no. Yeah, the lads talked about that in scoring the players. Bit of confrontation with Almiron and Joe Litton. So if you haven't seen that, there's a few disagreements on that with Almiron. For me, Almiron needs taken out the sides because of 2 things. The tactics, it's just not suiting him whatsoever. And secondly, he's not offering nothing going forward. That might sound harsh, but it's reality. What's he offering? How many goals has he got? How many assists has he got? But you can point the finger at Bruce for that as well. But at the end of the day, the player's got to do something himself as well. Play Elliot Anderson over Miggy, says Ginger, yeah, as well. He was not a good defender. Steve, who are you referring to there? You're referring to Kieran Clark there, or are you tongue-in-cheek with Andy Carroll? Thomas says it was a red card. I disagree on that, Thomas, as well. And Daniel has said that it felt surreal, says looked like scoring for once. That's the thing, though. The one that Daniel looked a bit of a threat. Not fully, but a bit of a threat going forward. Should have played Gale and Carroll up top. I would have graded that. Little and large. Cut the losses on Joe Litton. Forget and move forward. Yeah, I seem to be getting a bit of sick. Steve says it. I think it studs up. It could have gone either way as well. Jody Sankasa, a regular commenter. Joe Litton can't start for us. Yeah, they were talking about that in the scoring the players, that he has to be just taken out the side on Tuesday. I wouldn't say it's a must win, but I think for confidence it is. If that makes sense. It's not a must win in terms of points, but for the morale and the confidence it is. Jonathan Anderson looked very good when he came on, much better than Joe Litton. And Ben, similar kind of stuff as well. Looks a competent player on the ball. Bright future ahead for English football. Well, technically he can actually still play for England or Scotland. He's playing for Scotland's youth at the minute as well. Wasn't showing him Matty like that when they first played. Yeah, spot on. Not a red card as well. We'll keep your comments on pause. I'm going to play Brandon's clip. And then you'll still see your comments appearing on screen. So this is Brandon's thoughts on the game today.
I wasn't expecting much from the second half. Later, when we played the second half, I was happily surprised. Andy Carroll looked more than great. Some people say man of the match. I'm not sure, because for me, being man of the match, he should have backed one of those big chances he had. Which he didn't. So for me, Dubravka played really well, of course. And I have to point out, like, if you can come back after an ankle injury and putting on this performance, it's impressive. Steve Bruce has some decision to make, in my opinion. I know not everyone agrees with me, but we can all disagree, right? That's where Newcastle Fans TV for. After the second half performance, I think we should deserve to win, and we should have won. After the 92nd minute, Andy Carroll had to score. That would have done it. So in extra time, we looked still okay. Arsenal went pressing though for the second half of the extra time, which was unfortunate because of a personal error, which you rarely see from Kieran Clark. Cost us the game. In the end, I can't be mad. I can't be mad. The substitutes were okay, but just got it. We would have deserved a lot more. If this was a normal league game, we would have got a point at Arsenal, which I definitely would have taken. So yeah.
So that was Brandon's thoughts. Remember, we'll play Arsenal a week on Monday back in the league as well. We've got Sheffield United next and then Arsenal. Seeing what you said, a couple of you said in the comments there, I get what you're saying with Andy Carroll. Strikers need to score goals, should have took his chances. But for me, Andy Carroll's man of the match, despite missing those chances. And that tells you a lot of stuff about our attackers and midfield, doesn't it? Because let's face it, Andy Carroll put a shift in tonight, and I've seen a couple of jokes there saying that you could play centre-back. And do you know what? In a couple of years' time, when he's winded down, because Chris Sutton and Dion Dublin played centre-back. Who knows? Not for us, mind. Not for us. But yeah, that was Brandon's thoughts. We're out the cup. Let's hear from Mr. Bruce.
The one thing you have to do is take your chances when they come along. They're not going to be lots and lots of them, of course. We had the opportunity at the final couple of minutes and didn't grasp it. So, but you know, as for the cup tie, it could have went either way. So, you know, we'll just rue the missed chances that we had. But as I said, because when you come here, you don't get a lot of them. I thought Andy did fantastically well, and of course he'd have topped it off by scoring a goal. It would have been good for him, especially after scoring last week. but there was a lot of pleasing things, of course. So, you know, we've had a really, really tough run of fixtures and what we've had in the last 10 days, but we'll dust ourselves down and get ready to go again. I've found positives in all of the games over the last 10 days in particular. Not easy when you've played Man City, Liverpool, Leicester and now Arsenal away. So it's been a particularly difficult period in terms of the games we've had to play, but I've seen plenty of positives. I think we're trying to get higher up the pitch, which has pleased me, and create a few more chances.
So that was Steve Bruce talking after Newcastle have been dumped out of the FA Cup. So that is now, what's that now? 52 years now without any trophy. That's mad, that, and for a club like Newcastle. 52 years, and you've seen people like Swansea and Birmingham win trophies recently. I say recently, 10, 15 years. Mad, isn't it? Absolutely mental, isn't it? Look, I didn't expect to get out from today, but let's wrap up with what you have said in the comments as well. Lee, we need to go for Damari Gray. He's a good shout. Yeah, he can play left or right, a winger who can attack players. I think he's a better upgrade of Jacob Murphy, because I think Gray does have a quality. I'm not against that as well. Which is also important for the side to get crosses in. Yeah, spot on, says Steve. When is ESM back, says Daniel? 2 weeks. He's back. He's back in the country, but he's not allowed to play because of isolation ruling. And Ben says it wasn't a red card. I agree. I totally agree. I just think it shows how football has gone soft. I don't believe this challenge would be talked about 10 years ago if it's a red or not. Yeah, I totally agree. We need to stop playing Joe Linton as well, says Andrew. So yeah, that is a wrap. We have finished up all of the videos. I hope you have enjoyed that as well. If you are still watching us, please hit that like. It does help for the graph that we've put in for the last, I don't know how many hours it's been, 6 hours that we're being live now for all the videos. But yeah, that is it. We shall have a preview either tomorrow night, Sunday night, or Monday night, one of the two. So keep an eye out for your notifications. Hit the bell if you haven't hit that. Have a good night, everyone. Ta-da. Watch what it's a day. Bye-bye.